Hi everybody, this is Professor Chow, and today we're going to talk about some strategies for active reading. Active reading is the kind of reading that you're going to be doing in college. It's a little different than reading just for fun, for those that do that. The objectives for this portion of the course are to define active reading in readers and passive reading in readers, identify and describe the qualities of active reading, explain the process and techniques for active reading as well. You can take some notes while we are going through this and continue to refer to this PowerPoint as needed. Now, there are two main types of readers, and those are passive readers and active readers. Passive readers read to complete an assignment without comprehending or working with the information. A lot of times we've done this. Maybe we've read to kids and not really let it sink in, read for entertainment. You're just not really thinking that much about what you're reading at that point. But active readers are those that read with a purpose, focus, and organization by taking notes and reflecting on the process. So this is when you know you have to analyze the information. You might have to memorize the information. The information's important to you. That's when you become an active reader. Now, this portion describes a passive reader. A passive reader doesn't really know why they're reading. They read it to get it done. They can't wait to finish. They might just skim through it, They can't remember what they read because they went through it so fast. They don't ask questions while reading, and they finish without reflecting on the material or the process. So that person, wipes their hands and says, "Hey, I'm done. What's the next thing?" But if they had to have a pop quiz in the morning, they would not be successful because it didn't sink in. Now, on the other hand, we have the active reader who will read with a purpose in mind. You have an assignment, there's a test on a particular part of the information, there's something you're looking for, so you have a purpose. They summarize and organize the information for future use. You have to take notes to do that. They bring personal knowledge and experience to the text. They ask questions before and after reading, and I would even say during reading. For instance, in my literature classes, I say, how did that character introduce themselves to you? Who is that character? Why did they pop up in that way? What's the meaning behind what they said? So they're asking questions. And then mark the text using your own note-taking system. So some people scribble in the margin, some people use highlighters, whatever works for you. And then reflect on the information and the reading process. So I'm losing a portion of my screen here, so let me stretch it out for you a bit. We have reading. Reading actively means understanding the basic and complex parts of a text and how these parts create meaning. You should engage in active dialogue with the text, wherein you make a discovery. After that dialogue, you should be able to argue your discovery through writing. So, because you have read it actively, you're learning from the text. My professors used to say books are our teachers, and that's why we have books as an important part of a college education. So in order to read actively, these are the things that you should do. First, preview the text. Then you have to ask questions. Why am I here? What am I looking at this for? What do I need out of this? Research unfamiliar words and allusions. So what you're reading, you might find that there are words you don't recognize. Don't just go past it. Look it up. Find out what that is. There might be something in a different language. There might be an expression, a colloquialism that is cultural that you are not familiar with. You can still look those things up. So do your research. Annotate the text, write in the margins, write what you know as you're learning about things in the text, right? In there or in your notebook. Summarize and analyze the information. Summarizing and analyzing, two different things. Summarizing is putting it into your own words, shrinking it down into bite-sized chunks, whereas analyzing would mean that you're really thinking about the different pieces here and what is being what is the author trying to say, and then reflect on the material and the process. So let me go back, because I just kind of went quickly through those, but let's talk about first a little more in depth about previewing a text. When you preview a text, locate and research the publication and author information. Read the titles and subtitles, skim the introduction and conclusion, create several pre-reading questions based on the assignment. Now think about this. Why is it important to know when the book was written or who wrote it? Well, it could be informed by what was going on at the time when it was written. And I'm thinking more about literature, but even some of the articles we analyze in some of the English classes, they could definitely be associated with a certain socioeconomic or his context or historical context, and you should know those things about it. When it comes to, I often teach poetry as well. Like the title is kind of informing you as to what this poem is about, and it helps with understanding. So knowing the title and the subtitle definitely helps with understanding. The introduction and conclusion, those two things are, not only are they summarizing, but they're giving you a roadmap as to what's in the whole text. So by skimming those parts first, you actually get a lot of the information ahead of time. The skeleton anyway, the meat is in the text. And then creating several pre-reading questions. Hey, this is a great way to study. You can make your own pre-test before it's even time to take the test, and then you'll be really ready when the time comes. So when you are asking questions of the text that you are approaching, think about, what do you already know about the subject? What do you want to know or need to know? Because it could be that you're studying for a test, or it could be that you're researching for a paper. Also, you want to write down, what did you find interesting or confusing? Bring those questions to class. Do extra research to find the answers. Don't just leave them hanging out there and say, this is too tough for me. This is the time to unpack some of these things and dig into some of these different things. So, again, what assumptions does the author make? Look for bias. Look for assumptions. Where is this author coming from? And do you agree or disagree with it? All of that is part of critical thinking, to really look critically and analyze what you are reading instead of just taking it in. And as I keep saying, and I can't repeat it enough, you definitely want to look up things that are unfamiliar to you. And so here are some ways to look up that information. There are dictionaries for unfamiliar words. And of course, online, we have dictionary.com and other online dictionaries. If you click on hyperlinks inside electronic text, that can also give you more information. Sometimes there's footnotes in books that give you more information in the appendix or at the end of a passage. You can use popular search engines for quick research on allusions, like if the author seems to be alluding to something else, like they're talking about, all I can think of right now is this one poem that I wrote where I'm talking about a woman speaking in 1969 as valedictorian, and her mother says, "Don't be like those yentas at Wellesley." And that's an allusion. So if you put in Wellesley in 1969 and valedictorian, you might find Hillary Clinton wrote. did a speech at Wellesley College back in '69 that put her on the map. So that's an allusion. It's like we're alluding to, we're hinting at something else. So looking up those allusions can give you more understanding about what this current text is about. And you can also use an encyclopedia or a quick word search. And there's a lot of other things you can use. You can look up languages in language dictionaries. Babelfish Online is an example of that. There's rhyming dictionaries and thesauruses and all different kinds of reference books that you can use. Don't forget to make notes or annotations about those parts for later. So if you look something up, write it down, otherwise you might forget it. Okay. Anything that you found confusing, you might want to ask about that in class, or if you are fully online, you might want to connect with your teacher or classmates about that. So write it down so you don't forget that part. Also, you want to make sure that you're putting information into your own words. I briefly mentioned earlier the difference between summary and analysis. So summary, you are kind of just shrinking the information down, but getting the main things like the author's thesis, the main points and conclusions, not all of the detail, discussing types of evidence, determining the purpose of the text, but that's all in your own words. And analysis is determining the effectiveness of the text. Is this working? Where is this author coming from? Did they use evidence? Is it biased or not? Is the author achieving his or her purpose? So all of that being said, the main things, those are the main things that you should do. But in the end, to make sure that you are processing the information that you have received, you need to ask yourself these questions. What did I learn? What do I still need to know? Did I learn what I needed to? Does the text have references or further reading to help me? And once you have done that, you have become an active reader. Please feel free to let me know through Blackboard, through email, if you have any questions about this video. Thank you for listening.